Keychains jingle, freedom's call. Shop for liberty, stand tall. For the bold, the brave, the free. A people liberty shops where you want to be. So laugh, sip, wear your pride. With every purchase, feel inside that spark of fun, cool and edgy dreams. We're the Patriot shopping regime. Hey, you patriots in the mix, jump on a P4 Liberty shop quick. Get your founding flavors brew, coffee with a rebel hue. Keychains jingle, freedom's call. Shop for liberty, stand tall. For the bold, the brave, the free. A people liberty shops where you want to be. So laugh, sip, wear your pride. With every purchase, feel inside that spark of fun, cool and edgy dreams. We're the Patriot shopping regime. Hey, you patriots in the mix, jump on a P4 Liberty shop quick. Get your founding flavors brew, coffee with a rebel hue. Keychains jingle, freedom's call. Shop for liberty, stand tall. For the bold, the brave, the free. A people liberty shops where you want to be. So laugh, sip, wear your pride. With every purchase, feel inside that spark of fun, cool and edgy dreams. We're the Patriot shopping regime. Patriots in the mix, jump on a P4 Liberty shop quick. Get your founding flavors brew, coffee with a rebel hue. Keychains jingle, freedom's call. Shop for liberty, stand tall. For the bold, the brave, the free. A people liberty shops where you want to be. So laugh, sip, wear your pride. With every purchase, feel inside that spark of fun, cool and edgy dreams. We're the Patriot shopping regime. Patriots in the mix, jump on a P4 Liberty shop quick. Get your founding flavors brew, coffee with a rebel hue. Keychains jingle, freedom's call. Shop for liberty, stand tall. For the bold, the brave, the free. A people liberty shops where you want to be. So laugh, sip, wear your pride. With every purchase, feel inside that spark of fun, cool and edgy dreams. We're the Patriot shopping regime.
A cruel invasion. Good morning, fellow racists. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. Austin, what are you calling us a racist? Well, you're about to find out. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. I'm your host, AP. Glad to have you here. Do us a favor. Actually, don't do me a favor. Help us out. Click the like button. We'll be glad to have you come back and join us. The regular show schedule is what? Every Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. Come back and join us on the regs. If you follow the show, then you'll be able to, the channel, you'll be able to find us again real easy tomorrow morning. So why is good morning making us all racist? You know what? Let's have a cup of racism. Let's have a bit of racism in our cup this morning. Take a listen.
My guy. So let's talk about where the word good morning originated from.
Let's do it.
Good morning.
Mm.
All right, so during slavery times, when the women
During slavery times, well, you can just tell right away that she is a Rhodes Scholar.
used to mourn about their child being taken away and sold to a different slave master, or if one of the family members did something that resulted into them getting whipped or killed, most of these things used to happen in the evening time, when a child was sold off or somebody was getting whipped for something. The black women used to cry all night behind it. Not even just the women, the black people in general, all the black slaves, male or female. When something happened to a family member or a close friend or anything, they used to cry all night behind it. And when the slaves used to cry about what happened all night long, the white slave masters, the oppressors, will wake up in the morning time and they'll tell the slaves, did you have a good morning? Basically, did you have a good cry out? Did you do enough crying last night because of what happened to their family member a day prior? So the white oppressors came up with good morning as a mockery towards black people.
Boy, Michelle Obama has really let herself go.
During the slavery times, when they used to cry and mourn and grieve over what happened to somebody when they was whipped or killed or taken off to another plantation. So it was their way to make fun of the black slaves crying that night prior. So they would ask them, did you have a good morning? Did you have a good cry? And they would laugh about it. So that was their way of being funny towards the black slaves when they would cry.
Can't take it anymore. All right. Good morning. Ooh, good morning. Remember when, maybe it is racist, because you guys remember that Kanye West song, Good Morning? She had D's, mother trucker D's, Rosie Perez. Good morning. Ooh, good morning. Because Kanye is basically a Nazi now, isn't he? No. Good morning. You're all racist. Where do you know? All the slaves, because they said good morning because of the slaves. Only takes so much tardation this early. Glad to have you here. We got some more interesting stuff to share with you today. It does kind of hew along racial lines. Joy Reid of MSNBC says, well, the reason why they're going after Donald Trump is, well, essentially they're saying it's because he's white. You know, they use it in that weird coded language that the idea behind DEI is to promote racial justice, and really it's to go after people like Donald Trump. They hate him for lots of reasons, but I think they hate him because he's white. I'm right. Oh, shit. We was comedians, said David Lee. What's happening, people? Shit. It was good morning and shit. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. Glad to have you here. It's time for us to have a little bit of fun. Quest Fanning says, bet she's a lot of fun at a picnic. That's racist!
No, God! No!
Quest, how dare you? Thanks for the donation.
No!
DEI didn't earn it, says Mighty Megatron. I love it.
How dare you?
How dare you, sir? You guys have been enjoying the Wake Up America show, I think, a lot lately. It's been nice to see some of you. People have been getting active over on the locals community. I know people like Robbie Thurman are feeling very boomerish about it. But Steffi and I have committed to helping to grow that community. It's a secret, safe place for fans of the Wake Up America show. If you haven't joined the community yet, today's a great day to do so. Head over there either during the show or after at wakeupamericashow.locals.com. Set up an account there. That's the place for us to hang out whenever the show isn't live. And Stephanie and I have committed to introducing the Hustling and Homemaking show, her show, to you exclusively 24 hours before it goes live everywhere else. So if you're a member of the Wake Up America show locals community, then you're going to get to see Stephanie's content a little bit early, which I think is nice. Did you have a good morning? Yes. So if you're interested in seeing Stephanie's hustling and homemaking videos before everybody else gets to see them, if you're a member of the Locals community, then you're going to get to see that exclusive content a day before, exclusively before anybody else. So yeah, that'll be nice for you. A little bit of a treat. And we're going to continue to try and add fresh content to that channel for you all so that you can have a nice little community and hang out whenever we're not here. Because don't you sometimes kind of like just miss hanging out? Don't you guys wish that we could hang out a little bit longer after the show in the mornings? Well, that's the place for us to do it. So if you're a member over there, a sustaining member, then you're allowed to make posts and to write comments and do different things like that. So make sure you become a sustaining member, etc., etc. Also, a couple of house cleaning things, FYI. The bonus content today, extra super special. I strayed a bit from the theme of the week, which I think you all are going to actually appreciate and put a little bit of extra tender loving care into today's bonus content. If you would like to see it, you'll need to unlock it. Quest has already begun the quest to unlock the bonus content today. The bonus content today will be unlocked. We're going to up the game a bit, up the ante, make it a little bit more tough for people to unlock the bonus content. Remember, it goes away forever if we don't raise enough by the end of the show or do enough in qualifying sales. So today's donation total, and it's because the quality has increased. Trust me, we're going to increase the total today to $60. So, hey, come on now. I got a kid to feed soon. Well, that's going to be Steffi's job, but yeah, we'll have to put diapers on her little butt. So it'll be $60 today by the end of the show. And if we don't hit that goal by the end of the show today, then this extra super special amazing bonus mini documentary goes away forever. Please don't let that happen.
God!
Don't let it happen.
Oh God, please, no!
So today, if we raise at least $60 by the end of the show, or we make qualifying purchases over at apforlibertyshop.com, then you guys will be able to see the bonus content. The mini documentary today is freaking lit. It's good stuff and highly relevant to the political scene today and what's going on in the world. Speaking of what's going on in the world, Joe Biden has no idea what's going on in the world. Take a look and a listen.
One day I showed up at off-year convention, and I was in the motel, after the local motel, getting changed after the afternoon session, go back to the evening session. I'd come down with some young activists, a little older than me, but still young activists, who were involved in trying to reform the party. And I was in one of those 8x10 bathrooms, they have, shower, toilet, and a sink. And I got a towel on me and shaving cream, and I hear bam, bam, bam at my door really loudly. And I wonder, what the hell is that? I thought it was this guy, Bob Cunningham, at a radio show, and a couple other guys. So I said, okay, guys. And I walked to the door and opened it up, and standing there was the former governor of the state of Delaware, Albert N. Carville, a big guy, about 6'5", talked at you like this. And the state representative who got defeated 4 years earlier as a Democratic state rep who was retired. And one of the, from the family that had more senators appointed than any other family in American history, to the tunnels, a former retired justice and the state chairman. And they said, I'm standing in a towel and shaving cream on my face. America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put him.
Yeah. Don't know what the heck's going on over there. Thank you very much to Guocos. He just donated $10 in the tip jar. Yeah, that was our illustrious commander-in-chief. Appreciate you all very much. And someone just bought something from apforlibertyshop.com. So that's $38, $39. So we're $40 towards our $60 goal already. Dang. You guys must really want to see today's bonus content. Trust me, you really do. It's freaking awesome. So make sure you get those by Rumble Rant donations in by the end of the show today, or you can also do YouTube Super Chats. We are live on YouTube as well as on locals.com, as well as on x.com. There's just a million billion ways to watch Wake Up America show so we can capture the biggest audience that we can. So there's Commander-in-Chief, President Biden, not the legitimate president. He wasn't legitimately elected. Donald Trump, future commander-in-chief, facing down a criminal trial in New York City yesterday. We're going to speak to Judge Napolitano about that this morning at 8 a.m. Looking forward to talking to him. You don't want to miss Judge Napolitano's take on what's happening in this legal sphere. We always appreciate his point of view. At 8:30 a.m. Central Time, we're going to hear from a new guest on the show. You guys might not have heard of him, but I'm going to be glad to introduce him to you. He's someone that actually I listen to his podcasts and videos pretty frequently. His name is Aaron Clary. And he's an economist who lives out in South Dakota, so it's way, way earlier out there where he's going to be. And he talks about the red pill and women's issues, men's issues, and he backs everything up based on statistical data that he pulls from his research as an economist. And his recent video actually inspired my segment yesterday when he was talking about why we can't have beautiful women in America anymore. Why can't we enjoy beautiful women in Western culture anymore? And inspired my segment that I did yesterday. And I reached out to him, asked him to be on the show today. I'm going to introduce you to him today. He's kind of like the crotchety old man, kind of like his style. But maybe it's because I'm starting to get to that age where I'm like, get off my lawn too, that I appreciate and enjoy it. Sometimes my wife hears him. She's like, he just sounds kind of bitter and mad. But Stephanie likes red pill content. She just like prefers Pearl Davis to like Aaron Clary, but I like Aaron Clary, and Aaron Clary is going to be on my show today for the very first time at 8:30 a.m. You don't want to miss Aaron Clary. And you fidget to you. Yes, so we'll hear from Aaron Clary at 8:30 today about his podcast where he talked about why we can no longer enjoy beautiful women anymore. So Judge Napolitano, Aaron Clary, 8 o'clock, 8:30. So you got me for the first hour of the show today. Then you got our guests in the second half of the show. Robbie Thurman is absolutely correct when he says, doesn't he have asshole consulting? He does. That's his business. There you go. So if you guys are fans of Aaron Clary, then you're going to be happy to see him today at 8:30 a.m. Central today. Less than 1/3 of U.S. men enjoy reading. This is a big problem. It's National Libraries Week this week in the United States, and we're looking at readership patterns from all over the world. Women were more likely to say that reading is one of their personal hobbies than men in all of the selected countries: Spain, Italy, Germany, Mexico, United Kingdom, France, United States, and South Korea. These were the countries that were selected for this study. And let me pull up the map here for you so you can take a look at it. The differences between interest in reading between women and men. And you can see here on the far left in Spain, where women say this is one of their personal hobbies, 58% of women compared to 39% of men. Italy, Germany follows this trend, Mexico, United Kingdom, France, and then here in the United States, we're not big on reading when it comes to the developed countries overall. But here we see the United States, 44% of women say that reading is a personal hobby compared to 30% of men. Yikes. Now, this is a big problem because if we want to have an advanced society, then we want to be a society that is a creator economy, and we want to have educated children that retain their freedom. We need to have better readers. Now, the gender gap was the widest in Germany, 20% point difference, followed by Spain and Italy. In the United States, 44% of women say that reading was one of their favorite pastimes. Only 30% of men in the United States said that reading was one of their pastimes. So when you look at the U.S. adult surveyed population and you combine both genders, the share of people selecting reading in response to this question increased with age. So as we get older, we tend to read more. That's a good thing. However, reading will give you a massive advantage if you do so while you are young. Can attest, did a lot of reading as a young man. It put me way ahead of my peers in education. Now, I don't know about you, but my reading style and tastes have changed as I've gotten older. And of course, when you're in middle age or when you're busy, in your 20s and 30s, it can be difficult to set aside a little bit of time to read. And I certainly struggle myself with putting aside important time to read. I recently started a regime that I've kind of walked back and I need to get back on it, which is to read a little bit in the mornings as soon as I get home after the show. but there really is no replacement for actual reading. Not sitting at a computer, looking at a tablet, reading articles all day, which is what I mostly do, right? Or spend time in the idiot box watching YouTube videos or Netflix or Amazon Prime or what have you. But actually cracking open a book and reading, and it helps you to develop your thoughts. It helps you to think about things in a different way. And I know a lot of people are, fans of fiction versus nonfiction. I've read some studies recently that have said that reading fiction, it does not stimulate your brain in the same way that reading nonfiction does. However, I would suggest that no matter if you're just reading as a kid, it's great. I was listening to a podcast the other day talking about the impact that Harry Potter had on kids, because there was a lot of resistance to Harry Potter because of its cult themes initially, right? It was getting banned. You shouldn't read this. It's about witches and warlocks and wizards. So it became like one of those controversial banned books when it came out in the 90s. But the people were talking about how, listen, if you've got a kid who wants to read a gigantic chunky book that's 1,000 pages or 800 or 900 pages, let him do it, right? It's kind of like when I was a kid, I used to read fiction, a lot of fiction, and I was fascinated mostly with fiction when I was a kid. And then as I got older, my reading habits started to change. But I read Stephen King novels. And at first, my parents were really suspicious of this because of the gruesomeness and the brutality and the sexuality of Stephen King's novels like It and the Tommyknockers I loved the Desperation series. But and I read the Dark Tower series, which is, each book is like this thick, and they're 9 novels. And I read all of them. I think I read through the entire Dark Tower series twice. But being able to learn how to read, that reading comprehension that you gain from that, when I finally went and took my ACTs in high school, I think a perfect score was 34 when it came to each segment, and I think my reading and reading comprehension was like 33. It was like one off from perfection because of all the reading that I had done as a young man. So while I think it's beneficial, of course, to read in your later years, and my grandmother retained her mentality. She was very cognizant as she got older. I think in large part because, one, she walked every day, and they say that physical exercise is very important to maintaining brain health. And then 2, reading. And she would read all of the time. And it was funny because my grandmother was such a strong Christian, but she would read these kind of weird, trashy romance novels. We always kind of laughed about that as kids because she was just not that type of like passionate romantic in any other way, right? She's just like a sweet, loving, doting grandmother. But then we would always find these like romance novel books and stuff that she would read at night when she was sleeping on the couch. And it was just kind of funny, but odd. But she was always very sharp. And we need this, man. We cannot acquiesce the realm of academia and of intellect, just leave that to the women. I think that what's happened is that as women have been encouraged in science, technology, engineering, and math, and we're starting to encourage men to get into skilled trades like plumbing and welding and car repair and a lot of practical trades, which I think is good. It's fantastic. We shouldn't completely absolve ourselves of our responsibility to be intellectuals and thought leaders in our society. So a deeply concerning trend, something that we absolutely should keep an eye on, and something that I will absolutely advocate for. And I will be reading to my daughter as soon as I can. I mean, I'm already starting to talk to her in the womb, right? Where I kind of, if Stephanie and I take a nap, then, I'll have her lay on our back and I'll just kind of like, hello, Hazel, just so you know, your daddy loves you. I can't wait to meet you. We are going to have so much fun together. Can't wait to take you on little trips and sing to you and dance and teach you how to read and do things like this, fun things together. And so, yes, she can recognize my voice when she's born. But I can't wait to read to her. I hope that she's a good reader. I hope that she loves to read, because I think that reading is the core of intellect. That's just my opinion. I was never the big math guy, so I hope she's better at math than I was. Anyway, so let's talk a little bit about the news real quick. I was reading about the Donald Trump hush money trial. This made me laugh. This part of the Wall Street Journal article where they're talking about jury selection. And one of the jurors, Todd Blanche, a lawyer for Trump, told the jurors that Trump's case was unlike any other. He says, here we all know that every one of you knows President Trump, and you all know him in different ways, and you all have different views of him. Now, listen to this woman who, ostensibly a reader, says she was asked about her opinion of Trump. She works in social media marketing, red flag, and said she wasn't into politics. Red flag, red flag, red flag. There's no such thing as a young female social media marketer these days who's not into politics. I don't believe it. She says, obviously, I know about President Trump. I'm a female. Hold on, what? So the lawyer, Trump's lawyer, who was asking this juror, asked her what she meant. She says, I know that there have been opinions on how he doesn't treat females correctly. Stuff like that, she said. I honestly don't know the story, so I don't have a view on it. Okay. Yeah, and that juror was dismissed. Yes, so.
How dare you?
But these are the readers in American society. She says, obviously, I know about President Trump. I'm a female. Like, what the hell does that even mean? I know about President Trump. I'm a female. I don't get it. And then she says, I know that there have been opinions on how, like, he doesn't treat females correctly, stuff like that. Just exactly how are you supposed to be treated these days? Like, I'm just begging you. Like, okay, let's politics aside here. And I'm sorry, I know Aaron, Claire, and I are going to bitch later at 8:30 a.m. together. But let me just ask you something, ladies. How do you want to be treated? Okay, do you want to be treated like a man? I bet you don't. I promise you don't. You do not want to get treated like a man, because I see what happens when you get treated like a man. You don't like it. You don't like it. So should we treat you like a lady? You want to be treated like a lady? Okay, well then at some certain point in time, there might be a bit of a patting on the head, if you will, and say, oh, when you say things like, obviously I know about President Trump, I'm a female. I know that there have been opinions about how he doesn't treat females correctly, stuff like that. He doesn't treat females correctly. How are we supposed to treat a moron like you? How are we supposed to treat a complete, flipping, flying, flocking female like yourself? How are we supposed to treat you, right? I know there have been opinions about how he treats women. I know about Trump because I'm a female. I mean, non sequitur, right? Non sequitur. It does not follow. I know about President Trump because I'm a female. I'm a female, therefore I know about President Trump. Non sequitur. Non sequitur. Little Latin. As you can tell, I was a reader. Yes. To change your mind on the Cursory line. Wake up, America, with Austin Peters is on. I'd love to hear your thoughts. You can send us a text on the show anytime, actually. The show's open. The text lines 573-319-1586. Again, the text lines are open 573-319-1586. One listener texted in, says, when I got out of school, I hated to read. Now I like reading more. Well, that's good to hear. Another listener sent me like a wall of text this morning. Okay, well, I don't know if I'm going to be able to read all this morning. They sent it at 4:43. Hey, man, dang. Good morning. I hope this doesn't wake you up. Don't worry. At 4:43, I'm already up. He says, I certainly hope you're not going to capitulate about yesterday morning's beginning rant. Whether the audience likes it or not, I believe it's valuable and probably an important thing to say to your audience. Oh, yeah, the Katie Couric stuff. Yes, if you missed yesterday's rant, where I was talking about the move away from an industrialized society to a technological society, you definitely want to go back and do that. If you're into big brain stuff, if you were a reader, you're definitely going to want to listen to yesterday's rant. Maybe I should clip that and play it. I think that kind of content is really, really niche. And for the most part, people would rather me talk about more surface level stuff in the mornings, but I'm not abandoning my view. I completely, believe what I was saying. He says, you nailed it, by the way. We, meaning the USA, we say we do, But at the end of the day, we don't think long-term about how future populations will thrive. He says, you haven't embraced it. Well, you're a special kind of person, Fresh. Not everybody, and I would actually say very few people have the drive and the individual confidence to do what you're doing. Thank you. He says, and then there are the people who just want a meaningless job that pays the bills so they can go fishing. Yeah, it's true. Hunting, hiking, camping, or whatever. That already became more difficult with my generation. I'm 65 on Tuesday. Well, happy birthday. He says, if I fished as much as my dad did, I'd be homeless. That's funny. My dad is taking me fishing on Saturday. But we're doing it on our day off. He says, I know that's a lot. I'll be listening and watching this morning. Well, good. We're glad to have you here, sir. He says, I'm going to offer some form of this short version right now when the show opens. Nice job. The real question is, how do you get people to embrace the inevitable that they have to become self-sufficient and begin immediately? Might be a topic for a show. You can have some self-employed individuals on, some techies, maybe an old man like me who's figured out how to create multiple sources of income. Amen. And not pay the government. I mean, not rely on the government. Oh, you. Yeah, I mean, I'll give you just a brief refresher on what he's talking about here. And yesterday, what my theme was that Katie Couric was getting attacked for what she was saying about MAGA people and Trump supporters, but she actually had some bigger points that she was making in an interview that she did with Bill Maher. And I'm going to play a Bill Maher clip here in just a moment. But what she was talking about was the tension that especially right-wingers, but also left-wingers too, it's these populist movements. And for the love of God, make sure you get that last $20 in for the Rumble Rants, because you're going to want to watch today's mini documentary. It's all about this stuff, and it's just amazing. Please unlock that bonus content today. You've got to see this mini documentary. It's critical. It's totally about exactly what we're talking about here. The tensions that we're struggling with here in the United States, why we're seeing this rise of populism. I mean, it has to do with nativism. It has to do with economic ignorance. It has to do with illiteracy. It has to do with people not reading, right? It has to do with too much democracy, too many stupids voting on too much stuff, and too few representatives who are handling massive populations that they could never possibly represent. But then, on the bigger picture, when we look at American history, when we say, like, what was the conflict, right? It was this industrial versus agrarian conflict. That was the early American Republic. That was what was dividing America. And again, please make those Rumble Rant donations today. Unlock that bonus content. Don't let it go away, because it's so damn good and it's so relevant to this topic. It was agrarian versus industrialist, right? But now, what has the new American era brought us in terms of conflict? We are now in a conflict between industrialists and technologists, really. This is what it is. And people who cannot stay with, or who cannot keep up with the rise of technology. I mean, have you seen, for example, everything that I'm doing here with artificial intelligence to bring you this show, to bring you these mini documentaries, everything that I'm doing as sort of a maestro of technology, producing the Wake Up America show for you. There's no team here, right? There's no music. I am the writer, director, producer, singer, music editor, every developer, every single thing that the Wake Up America show, every website that you see, absolutely everything other than apforlibertyshop.com is done by me, because I have to it's sink or swim. It's sink or swim. And I can't go get a job back in the real world, or the normal world, or the industrial world as it is, right? I'm not fit for something like that. And frankly, I know that is the old world, and it's going away. So the conflicts that we're seeing in American society now, the conflict that we're seeing now is between industrialists and technologists. Right? People who want to live in the old world, people who want to institute tariffs and prevent international trade and globalization and the mixing of cultures around the world. They want to prevent that and create, homogenous societies, as if like the United States could ever be something like Japan. Spoiler alert, it can't. The United States will never be like Japan. We will never be an entirely homogenous society. And what you have to understand is that there are pros and cons of living in a heterogeneous society like the United States. Right? We have racial tension, right? We have cultural tension between the Jews and the blacks and the Muslims and the gays and the straights and the Catholics and the Protestants. That is there are consequences. There are cons of living in this kind of a society. There are cons of living in a Japanese society where everybody obeys without even being told to, right? The government, the Japanese government will set rules that aren't even laws, and everybody just obeys them, right? Everybody obeys the rules. They don't have to set laws. Here in the United States, you pass a law and people are like, bah, we're not going to do that, right? Good. That's a good thing. That's one of the beautiful features of living in a low trust society like the United States, where it's heterogeneous. But in a homogeneous society like Japan, there are certain things that they can do well, but they're also failing, and their economy is being destroyed, and they're not able to reproduce at a fast enough rate. The United States is going to try and follow that example? I think not. I mean, some people are trying to drag us that way. But anyways, that was a kind of a long way of saying that the old conflict in the United States was agrarians versus industrialists, culminating in the Civil War. The new conflict in the United States is industrialists. This is where the populist movement is trying to take us back to. They want to take us back to an industrial society. We need to be manufacturing. We need to be doing that, making cars again, and you need to be making your phones here in the United States and doing all this kind of stuff. And it'll cost $5,000 for the phone, but whatever. Right? It's your choice. It's your choice. But technologists, right? People like myself, developing, creating maestros of tech. This is where the economy is going, and this is the new conflict that we see. And it really is very much, I think, control, top-down control versus liberty and organic growth, right? So this is the conflict that we see here in the United States. Anyways, I've started to rant about that. So yes, pros and cons about these conflicts, and you get things like this. You get people like Joy Reid saying things like this.
Wonderfully poetic about the fact that despite the fact that even if convicted, he's not going to go to prison, the first person to actually criminally prosecute Donald Trump is a black Harvard grad, the very kind of person that his former staff, the people who worked for him, Stephen Miller, et cetera, want to never be at Harvard Law School. But he was. And he came out and graduated. He's prosecuting you, Donald. And a black woman is doing that same exact thing in Georgia. And a black woman forced you to pay a $175 million fine that's out now also in question because the people who put it up, that might not be legit. Donald Trump is being held to account by the very multicultural, multiracial democracy that he's trying to dismantle. And for me, there's something poetic and actually wonderful about that. It says something good about our country that we're still capable of having that happen. Go DEI. My DEIs are bringing it home.
There you go. So what is it that we have here in the United States? Not just a class warfare, but we have racial warfare, and it's stoked by people like this, pusillanimous pukes like Joy Reid, who is saying here that diversity, equity, inclusion standards, right, her racial war is being brought against Donald Trump because he's white, because he is rich, because he is powerful. She hates him. She hates white people. He is the avatar of her hatred. Her racial hatred is what animates her. And diversity, equity, inclusion, as she admits here, is a tool, a weapon to be used against the people that she hates. And Donald Trump was right. It's not necessarily that they hate him so much as they hate you, and he's standing in their way. Now, of course, they do hate him too, but diversity, equity, and inclusion standards are meant to go after people like me, people like you, to prevent white people from working in Hollywood, to prevent white people from sitting on corporate boards. Well, at least if you're a woman, you might be able to do so. But if you're a man, you better cut your dick off and be able to, in order to be able to get on the corporate board. You can't be beautiful if you're a woman, unless you're a man who's dressed as a woman. Then you can have a job in Hollywood and have big, giant, fake boobs, and then it's okay, right? It's up is down, down is up. This is the new speak. It's quite Orwellian. This is the racial war, diversity, equity, and inclusion, aka didn't earn it. Like that Donald Trump wig she's wearing. Remember, she also said something like this, too.
They oppose that venue for many reasons. The demographics of it are interesting. This judge named, I believe this magistrate judge is Mokshila Upadhyaya, or Upadhyaya, I might be pronouncing it wrong, a woman of color. The judge he will be facing in the trial, Jamaican-born woman of color. He seems to be facing sort of demographic reality, legal reality, and, situational reality. He is They oppose that venue for many reasons. The demographics of it are interesting. This judge named, I believe this magistrate judge is Mokshila Upadhyaya, or Upadhyaya, I might be pronouncing.
Right. So another example of how she's weaponizing race, right? The idea that the judge is a Jamaican woman of color, they know is an advantage against Donald Trump in this criminal trial. They will use race against us. But if you use race against them, well, then all of a sudden, you go into jail. You're going to jail. Our friend Deanna over on X.com this morning was asking why, because she just tuned in. She's wondering why it is that good morning is racist. Good morning, racists. Robbie says, how much money do we need to unlock the bonus content? Yes, you definitely want to do that. I think we need, let's see, 42, so $18 more, and we will unlock today's bonus content, which again, do not miss today's bonus content. It is so relevant and so good, and I worked so hard on it. You're going to love it. It'll go away forever if we don't get it, so make sure you unlock it. Here we go. This is why good morning is racist.
My guy.
Let's
talk about where the word good morning originated from. Good morning. All right, so during slavery times, when the women used to mourn about their child being taken away and sold to a different slave master, or if one of the family members did something that resulted into them getting whipped or killed, most of these things used to happen in the evening time, when a child was sold off or somebody was getting whipped for something. The black women used to cry all night behind it. Not even just the women, the black people in general, all the black slaves, male or female. When something happened to a family member or a close friend or anything, they used to cry all night behind it. And when the slaves used to cry about what happened all night long, the white slave masters, the oppressors, will wake up in the morning time and they'll tell the slaves, did you have a good morning? Basically, did you have a good cry out? Did you do enough crying last night because of what happened to their family member a day prior? So the white oppressors came up.
Do not come. Do not come.
I'm gonna come.
Good morning. There you go, Deanna. If you're watching us over on X.com, Deanna, nice to see you. I see you from Kansas City. That's my old hometown. How you doing? Glad to have you tuning in. Thanks so much for the comment, for the question. We appreciate all of our listeners who are joining us live right now. If you've just been kind of trickling in and joining us live, do me a solid and click that like button over on the feed. And if it's your first time here joining us, if you click the follow button over at rumble.com, then you can get subscribed to our channel. So that way you'll be able to find us again. The show schedule for the Wake Up America show is Mondays through Fridays from 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. Monday through Fridays, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. We'd love to have you come back and join us regularly. We are streaming on multiple platforms today, including our brand new Locals channel at wakeupamericashow.locals.com. So make sure that you join that as well. If you haven't visited apforlibertyshop.com, today's a great day to do so. My merchandise website has exclusive products designed by me and my smoking hot redheaded libertarian wife, Stephanie Peterson. She's lovely. We're going to have a baby. If you're a big fan of Silent Cal, Calvin Coolidge, I designed this beautiful stained glass window style of a glass cutting board that you can slice your vegetables up or anything that you'd like to do. You can beat your meat on my Calvin Coolidge. Why are you laughing? Over on your Calvin Coolidge glass cutting board, we have about $14 more left to raise to unlock today's bonus content. So please do get those Rumble Rant donations in. But if you make a purchase at apforlibertyshop.com, that also counts towards the total to unlock today's bonus content. We've got $14 more to raise before the end of the show to unlock today's bonus content. So if you'd like to see today's mini documentary, and I promise you that you do, head on over to apforlibertyshop.com. That's AP, the number 4, apforlibertyshop.com, and grab yourself something nice. We've got some beautiful historic stained glass spirits collection designed by none other than my smoking hot redheaded libertarian wife, Stephanie Peterson. So there you go. Head over to apforlibertyshop.com. Just grab yourself maybe a John Adams shot glass or a stained glass George Washington wine glass, absolutely beautiful in stained glass. And you can only get these exclusively because we created these designs over at ap4libertyshop.com. All right. Do you think we're going to be able to raise $14 more by the end of the show? I hope so. All right. Well, I wanted to play this clip for you yesterday. Didn't have enough time. Got about 15 minutes until Judge Napolitano comes on the show. But this Bill Maher clip talking about Canada I thought was a real eye-opener. Take a listen.
Finally, new rule: if we want to save our country, we should follow the advice good liberals have given for decades and learn from other countries. Especially those beacons of progressivism like Canada, England, and Scandinavia. And I agree we should, as long as we're honest about the lessons we're learning, and as long as we're up to date on the current data.
Are we?
Such as the unemployment rate in the U.S. is 3.8%, and in Canada it's 6.1%. And of
double.
the 15 North American cities with the worst air pollution, 14 are in Canada. I'm not citing these stats because I have it out for Canada. I love Canada and its people and always have. But I hate zombie lies. Yes, for decades, places like Vancouver and Amsterdam and Stockholm seemed idyllic because everything was free and all the energy we needed was produced by riding a bike to your job at the windmill. Canada was where all the treasured goals of liberalism worked perfectly. It was like NPR come to life.
The NPR come to life. Now, the left hates this stuff when they see Bill Maher doing this kind of thing. They're already out there with videos debunking everything that he's saying here about Canada, but he's making good points. The only thing preventing Bill Maher from voting Republican this fall is Donald Trump. If it were to any other candidate other than Trump, I think Bill Maher would probably he has gone right of center because the left has moved. He's like my brother, a soft liberal who is now voting Republican because the left has moved the goalpost so far to the left.
But with poutine. Canada was the Statue of Liberty with a low-maintenance haircut and cross-country skis, a giant idealized blue state with single-payer health care, gun control, and abortion on polite demand. Canada was where every woke white college kid wearing pajama pants outdoors who'd had it up to here with America's racist patriarchy dreamt of living someday. I mean, besides Gaza.
Good stuff there, Bill.
There's only one problem with thinking everything's better in Canada. It's not. Not anymore, anyway. Last year, Canada added 1.3 million people, which is a lot in 1 year, the equivalent of the U.S. adding 11 million migrants in 1 year. And now they're experiencing a housing crisis even worse than ours. And we're sleeping in tents. The median price of a home here is $346,000. In Canada, converted to U.S. dollars, it's $487,000. If Barbie moved to Winnipeg, she wouldn't be able to afford her dream house, and Ken would be working at Tim Hortons. Debt to GDP ratio of any G7 nation. I don't know what that means, but it sounds bad. So does their vaunted healthcare system, which ranks dead last among high-income countries in access to primary health care.
There it is. Canada ranks last in primary health care access, and yet you'll still hear liberals trotting out in the United States these tired old tropes, what he calls zombie lies, that we should have single-payer health care like they do in Canada. I'll tell you this. I actually think we should have single-payer health care. The people who use the health care should be the ones who pay, or the person who uses the health care should pay directly, not the government pays. People don't like it when you say that. They want somebody else to pay the bill. No.
And ability to see a doctor in a day or two. And it's not for lack
Ranked last from the Canadian Free Press there. Canada ranked last in their ability to get a same or a next day appointment. But when they see you a year later, at least it's free, except wait. Hold on, is it really free?
Spending of the 30 countries with universal coverage, Canada spends over 13% of its economy on it, which is a lot of money for free health care. Look, I'm not saying
He had to rush on to that one because they weren't about to applaud him when he said that. The highest spender, Canada is the highest spender on health care as a share of their economy, 13.3%. but they rank last in primary health care access. This is what happens when you have socialized medicine in your country. It's not free.
Army on it, which is a lot of money for free health care. Look, I'm not saying Canada still isn't a great country. It is, but those aren't paradise numbers. If Canada was an apartment, the lead feature might be America adjacent. And if America was a rental car, Canada would be America or similar. And again, honestly, Canada, I'm not saying any of this because I enjoy it. I don't, because I've always enjoyed you. But I need to cite you as a cautionary tale to help my country. And the moral of that tale is, yes, you can move too far left. And when you do, you wind up pushing the people in the middle to the right. At its worst, Canada is what American voters think happens when there's no one putting a check on extreme wokeness. Like the saga of Canadian shop teacher Kayla Lemieux,
Oh,
whose
God.
pronouns are she,
You
her.
remember this? You guys remember this guy in Canada, that shop teacher that transitioned, that had the gigantic hoo-has?
Like the saga of Canadian shop teacher Kayla Lemieux, whose pronouns are she, her, and those. Kayla is now back to being a guy named Kerry, but 2 years ago, when they showed up to teach children, the progressive high school they taught at said that they, the school, not the person. Really, you couldn't have found another word. We were using that one. Anyway, okay.
But Kayla, see, there were these rumors for a while that this person was actually doing a giant troll, and that's why the gigantic boobs, like this Kayla Lemieux, whatever, was actually just doing this as a way to show the absurdity of the system. And the fact that they like transitioned back to a man makes me think that this might have been one of the most epic trolls of all time, that this wasn't actually a person who was transgender with mental illness, but they were showing how easy it was to exploit the system where anybody can do anything ridiculous. And if they claim they're a minority or they're transgender, then they can get away with it, even involving kids, which is pretty sick in some ways. But if it was a troll, then you could see what the point of that was. We've got a little bit less than 10 minutes until Judge Napolitano comes and joins us on the program. If you'd like to see the mini documentary instead of the commercials, which I highly recommend, we just need to raise $14 more in order to do so. So now would be a good time to get that bonus donation unlock in now, if you guys want to see it. So I'm going to continue to play out this Bill Maher clip before we go. If we raise at least $14 more, then we're going to go ahead and play the bonus content for you. Again, we still got time to the end of the show for you to see it. Maybe we'll raise it in the next hour, and that's okay. But if you guys would rather see the mini documentary than our regular slate of commercials, then get in those Rumble Rant donations now or make a purchase at apforlibertyshop.com in the next few minutes, and I'll play the bonus history documentary before we move on to Judge Napolitano. Sound good? Okay.
They were committed to a safe environment for gender expression. Safe for who? What about the children? What about the equipment in that shop class? There was once a weirdo D-list movie producer in the 60s named Russ Meyer, who made low-budget B movies like Faster Pussycat Kill Kill and Beyond the Valley of the Dolls, always featuring women who look like this. His movies played in porn houses and were featured in Hustler and Playboy. Okay, fine, but who says, no, when it comes to huge, ridiculous tits, save that for the kids?
It's true. Thank you, JJ, by the way. He says, here's a rant. We appreciate that. $9 more to be raised until we unlock the bonus content. I think we're going to have time to do it. You've got about 1 minute to 2 minutes left to do so. And then you can skip the commercials and watch the documentary.
And this is why people vote for Trump.
Yes, it is.
They say in politics, liberals are the gas pedal and conservatives are the brakes. And I'm generally with the gas pedal, but not if we're driving off a cliff. On the trans issue, America is no ands, ifs, or buts about it, absolutely alone in the world now, an outlier country. Last month, England's National Health Service announced that there's not enough evidence to support the safety or clinical effectiveness of puberty blockers for third graders, and that they were going to stop fumbling around with children's privates, because that's Prince Andrew's job.
There you go. Funny stuff. Right there in front of Piers Morgan, too, of course, the Brit. Well, you guys did it. You unlocked the bonus content. Well done. Somebody just made a purchase over at apforlibertyshop.com, which means that we raised the $60 that we need. I raised the bar today. We raised the $60 that we needed to unlock the bonus content, which means you guys get to enjoy that instead of the commercials today. I worked very hard on today's. I think you're going to really enjoy it. Pay close attention. It's all about that former industrialist versus agrarian tension as the United States moved towards our society that we see today. It's time for you now to learn that I know nothing. Jon Snow. Enjoy the show. We'll be back with Judge Napolitano on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. Don't go away. The Wake Up America show's bonus content. Today, we look at the history of the Know Nothing Party in order to understand better how populist movements have shaped American politics. Consider this piece about the nativist riots and the Know Nothing Party from the Bill of Rights Institute. In the early 1850s, the United States experienced a wave of xenophobia, tracing its roots back to the Alien and Sedition Acts of 1798. The Alien and Sedition Acts of 1798 had been signed into law by President John Adams, largely due to Federalist concerns that immigrants from revolutionary France and Ireland might support Jeffersonian Republicans. Catholic immigrants in particular, especially in the Northeast, faced discrimination by Protestants who feared the Pope secretly encouraged immigration to subvert U.S. law. Only in 1821 did the state of New York accord full citizenship rights to Catholics. In 1834, a Protestant mob in Charlestown, Massachusetts, burned down a Catholic convent over rumors that nuns were being abused within its confines. Philadelphia's Church of St. Augustine was destroyed in the 1844 Nativist riot, highlighting the violent manifestations of nativism. Immigration during the antebellum years surged as never before. Between 1840 and 1860, more than 4.3 million newcomers, predominantly Germans and Irish, resettled in the United States. In all, foreign-born residents in the United States amounted to a staggering 14.5% of the total population, a percentage that has never since been eclipsed. The Irish faced devastating famine, leading to massive emigration. Germans also emigrated due to economic hardships, but they generally arrived in better conditions than the Irish. Nativists felt threatened by the political savvy and increasing numbers of Irish and German immigrants, many of whom were Catholics and politically engaged. German immigrants tended to be better off than their Irish counterparts. The Irish, on the other hand, arrived poor and with few skills. Irish immigrants were particularly adept at navigating American politics, drawing from their experiences with electoral movements in Ireland. Yet even the humblest of Irish immigrants brought one indispensable skill to the United States with them: politics. Between the 1820s and 1840s, ordinary Catholic men in Ireland, approximately 80% of the island's population, engaged in popular electoral movements that prepared them for American politics. They had fought for and won civil rights for Catholics in Ireland. Although their efforts to repeal the act that placed them under British rule had failed, they had peacefully mobilized to fight it. In the United States, particularly in northern states, they organized voters and won local elections. The Order of United Americans, founded in 1844, marked the beginning of organized nativist movements, eventually transforming into the Know Nothing Party by 1853. By 1846, the OUA claimed 2,000 members. 5 years later, that number had mushroomed to 30,000 statewide. The founder of the movement stated, "What is equality but stagnation? If democracy implies universal suffrage, or the right of all men to take control of the state, without regard to the intelligence, the morals, or the principles of the man, I am no Democrat." As nativists saw things, immigrants and Catholics lacked such virtues.
The Know-Nothings gained significant traction in 1854, appealing to younger, wealthier members of society who blamed immigrants for societal ills. Most blamed immigrant Catholics for increasing social ills, poverty, alcohol abuse, and moral decline. Nearly all believed that immigrants, whom the founder of the movement described as that class of aliens who assumed to be lawgivers and rulers in America, were becoming too powerful. Violence between Catholic Irish immigrants and Protestant nativists often erupted, fueled by fears of Catholic influence on public education. Nativist candidates won key state and federal races in New York, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Indiana, and throughout New England. The Know-Nothings, one person from Indiana reported, are as thick as locusts in Egypt. By the year's end, the mysterious political association boasted more than 10,000 lodges and 1 million members. The Know-Nothings capitalized on the divisive issue of slavery, positioning themselves as an alternative to the Whig and Democratic parties amid the controversy of the Kansas-Nebraska Act. Despite initial success, the Know-Nothing Party's focus on nativism, combined with the resolution of the potato blight and a decline in Irish immigration, led to its downfall by 1859. Abraham Lincoln critiqued the Know-Nothing Party's exclusionary stance, emphasizing the contradiction it posed to the principle that all men are created equal. Ultimately, the slave question, nativist riots, and declining immigration ended its spectacular rise. Nativism saw a temporary decline during the Civil War as Irish and German regiments earned respect for their service, but it would resurface later. The Know-Nothing Party is primarily associated with promoting nativism, flourishing during periods of increased immigration, and often targeting Irish and German immigrants. From 1840 to 1860, immigration surged, mainly due to difficult economic conditions in Ireland and the German states, marking a significant period of cultural and political tension in America. Nativism continued to decline during the Civil War as Irish and German regiments won respect for their service in battle. Lincoln's sentiments of 1855 had prevailed. However, nativism was to rear its head again at the end of the 19th century.
Hey, you patriots in the mix, jump on a P4 Liberty shop quick. Get your founding flavors brew, coffee with a rebel hue. Keychains jingle, freedom's call. Shop for liberty, stand tall. For the bold, the brave, the free. A P4 Liberty shop's where you wanna be. So laugh, sip, wear your pride. With every purchase, feel inside that spark of fun, cool and edgy dreams. We're the Patriots shopping regime. Patriots in the mix, jump on a P4 Liberty shop quick. Get your founding flavors brew, coffee with a rebel hue. Keychains jingle, freedom's call. Shop for liberty, stand tall. For the bold, the brave, the free. A P4 Liberty shop's where you wanna be. So laugh, sip, wear your pride. With every purchase, feel inside that spark of fun.
Welcome back to the Wake Up America show. I'm Austin Peterson. We're glad and thankful to have you here. Did you enjoy that little mini documentary about the Know-Nothing movement of the mid-1800s? I'm hoping more people will learn and understand just exactly what populism is and the role that it's played in American politics. Earlier, I gave you all a little bit of a rant explaining how the old conflict of the United States was between the agrarians and the industrialists. But as we move now into the 21st century, the new conflict is between industrialists and technologists. That's why you see people like the MAGA people and Donald Trump and others who are trying to advocate for tariffs, trying to put restrictions on immigration. That old know-nothing tension still manifests itself today in these same nativist impulses. So just ask yourself today, should we look back towards the old industrialist? Should we look forward towards the new technologists? Are we libertarians or are we authoritarians? Well, this show here, I think you know, because of our stance on economic freedom and personal liberty, we are very, very hardcore libertarian, which is why every Wednesday on the Wake Up America show, I bring one of the leading lights in the fight for liberty on my show. He's also got his own show. It's way bigger, way more popular. He's a hero to me and to many millions of who watch his show. His name is Judge Andrew Napolitano. All rise. He's here with us now. Good morning, Judge. How you doing,
when
Judge?
I would come out into the courtroom, I would always have my marshal say, "Remain seated" instead of "all rise." And what do you think people did? They stood up anyway.
Because they have the same kind of enduring respect that we have for you, Judge. And I'm glad that we can call upon your expertise to talk about the Trump criminal case in New York. They're going through the series of jury selections right now. For those of us who might not be familiar with this process, could you kind of talk us through this a little bit and then sort of layer on top of it, if you will, the added challenge that the lawyers face when it comes to picking someone for a trial that involves the most famous person in the world?
Well, the goal of the lawyers and the court is to find 18 people that can be fair and objective. So that's 12 jurors and 6 alternates. You don't want 18 people that never heard of him. That would be nearly impossible. And you don't want 18 people that have no opinion on him. That would be a person just devoid of basic knowledge. But you want 18 people that can be fair and objective. In order to do that, there are a couple of levels of inquiry. One is about a 45-question questionnaire that they have to answer. And after your name and what you do and what your education is and where you live is, can you be fair and objective? If the answer is no, they don't have to answer the rest of the questions. They're excused. If the answer is yes, then you want to know a little bit about them. You cannot ask them what their religion is. You cannot ask them for whom they voted, but you can ask them, do they listen to Austin Peterson and Judge Napolitano, or do they watch MSNBC? Do they listen to Alex Jones, or do they listen to Sid Rosenberg? You really want to find out what influences are in their head. Once the 42 questions have been answered successfully, that will exclude about 2/3 of the group, because a lot of people just don't want to be on this jury. They either already have decided the case is a fraud, they're trying to prevent him from running for president, or he's guilty, he's been getting away with this stuff for years, it's about time the law caught up with him. If a person has either of those attitudes, you don't want them on the jury. But if they can be fair and impartial, you move to the second phase of this inquiry, which is an in-person interrogation by the lawyers. Now, this is unique to New York. In most states, the judge does all the questioning. In New York, the lawyers do the questioning. This is a tremendous advantage to the lawyers. It's one of the few advantages of the New York system. The rest of it is antiquated. But in this particular area, the lawyers, for example, if you were a potential juror, they would have a conversation with you. You'd be under oath in an open courtroom. Tell us about your education. Tell us about your thoughts about the criminal justice process. There's the defendant over there. Do you believe that as he sits there, he's not guilty? Because under the law, he's not guilty until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt and to a moral certainty. Can you put aside whatever political views you may have about him or about the country? Can you put aside whatever cultural views you have and judge him fairly? If there's the slightest doubt in the judicial mind from those answers, the person is excused. If not, the person sits there and then can be subject to a challenge for cause or a challenge for no cause. Each side gets to challenge that is removed from the potential jury pool 12 people without stating a reason. Unless it's racial, they don't have to give the reason, and the person is off. Sometimes lawyers just have an instinct about a person that runs against what they think would be the best interests of their client. The judge manages and supervises all of this. I'm surprised, Austin, that after 2 days, they have 7 jurors chosen already. I thought this would take weeks. At this rate, they'll finish on Friday. They don't sit on Wednesdays in this court. They'll finish on Friday, and they'll start opening arguments on Monday.
Now, Judge, the judge in the previous case that Trump was dealing with in regards to the valuation of his properties. That judge played an outside role in that trial. I mean, he was, you know, bossy. He was, trying to find him in contempt. He was Judge Engoron. He seemed to be a less than impartial jurist, if you will. What do you know about this new judge in this new trial? Do you expect them to also sort of tip the scales, if you will, as the last judge appeared to be doing?
All right, so this is a very it's a superb question. It's a very touchy area of the law. In the previous trial, where this Justice Engoron was the judge, there was no jury. No jury. So he was the jury as well as the judge. The statute in that case under which Trump was sued did not permit a jury. In my view, that statute is unconstitutional, and Trump's lawyers failed to challenge it in a timely manner. Therefore, they cannot raise it on appeal. But that's a mistake that they made, and they'll have to live with, and he'll have to live with. This case, of course, because it's a criminal trial, there is a jury. When a judge shows bias in favor of the government or prejudice against the defendant to a jury, the jury picks up on that immediately, and often reacts. It often has the opposite effect from what the judge is intending to do. The jury is supreme here, not the judge. The jury is going to decide who's credible and whether or not the government has proved its case beyond a reasonable doubt and to a moral certainty. As for this judge, I think you're going to find him running a tighter ship than the last judge did. Generally, judges are a little bit more stern in the manner in which they try cases when there's a jury there, because they don't want the trial to devolve into a circus, and they don't want unduly to consume the juror's time. I don't know if he has any biases. His reputation is good to very good. Not excellent, not average, not bad, but good to very good for being fair and being stern. That is, enforcing the rules fairly and equally.
Judge, do you think it's fair that Trump is on trial for moving money around to pay a mistress?
I don't. If part of this is like a lot of Trump's problems is Trump's own fault. If he had paid it out of his pocket, there'd be no issue. But because he paid it out of corporate funds and deducted it as an ordinary and reasonable corporate expense, when corporations are not allowed to benefit campaigns, and when all money that benefits a campaign must be reported, those are the two things that caught him up in this. The bookkeeping, where there's no outside investors, where it's a private corporation, not a public corporation, it's really none of the government's business. But when something that's not a taxable event is reported as a taxable event and then masked, so that if the taxing authorities, we were talking about taxing authorities before the show came on, so that if taxing authorities investigate, they won't find it. That's what turns a bookkeeping error into a potential felony. On the other hand, if his name were Austin Peterson, I don't think he'd be a defendant in this case. It's just because he's Donald Trump that he's a defendant in the case. I can't say the same for the other three cases. The Mar-a-Lago case is gravely, gravely serious, but this one is almost farcical. However, the government is taking it seriously. They have superb trial lawyers in the courtroom. They have a venue that's not uniquely friendly to him. We'll see where it goes.
If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, good morning. It's nice to see a nice big audience today over at rumble.com. Thank you to our friends over at Rumble for featuring us on the front page. I'd imagine that you might be watching us for the very first time. This is the Wake Up America show, and I'm your host, Austin Peterson. I'm speaking to the great Judge Andrew Napolitano. He's the host of the Judging Freedom podcast, which you should absolutely watch and download on any of your mobile devices as well. I'd love it if you join us here again on the show. We do a regular 5-day-a-week schedule, Mondays through Fridays from 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. So click that follow button over on the feed so you can come back and join us again tomorrow. And of course, every Wednesday at 8 a.m. Central Time, Judge Napolitano regales us with his brilliance as a legal mind and a scholar in the fight for liberty. We've been talking a little bit about the trial of Donald Trump in New York, but I'd like to switch it down to Washington, D.C., and ask you, Judge, about this case, the Supreme Court case regarding Fisher versus the United States. Have you been paying much attention to this one and the oral arguments that have been going back and forth on this?
Yes, yes. So Fisher is one of the people caught up in the January 6th imbroglio, for lack of a better phrase. And Mr. Fisher was engaged in activity outside the Capitol building, and yet he was charged with obstruction of justice. Now, obstruction of justice means that the defendant impaired a governmental function. So the issue is, since he never got inside the Capitol building, since he didn't physically stop the Congress from counting the electoral votes, did he impair a governmental function? In my view, he didn't, but the government has been charging obstruction of justice as sort of a catch-all whenever it has to expend its resources to stop somebody from doing something that they don't like, rather than expending its resources on something else. Stated differently, he may have attempted to obstruct justice, he may have conspired to obstruct justice, but he didn't actually interfere with a governmental function. That's the issue that's before the Supreme Court. Now, this does not affect just him. This affects hundreds of other people, including the former president, one of whose charges in the January 6th case is obstruction of justice. The facts are unique to each individual as to whether their behavior literally, physically prevented a governmental process. Many states have changed the name of this crime from obstruction of justice to interfering with a governmental process, because much of what the government does is unjust. And you can't really say it's interference with justice. If you interfere with something that's unjust, then your act by definition is just. But anyway, without getting too philosophical here, that's what that case is about. And it sounds as though the court is going to dismiss the charge against them, which will result in the charges being dismissed against a few hundred people, and one of the many charges against Trump being dismissed as well, even though Trump is not a party to this appeal.
Now, Judge, as you and I know, the best of the legislators in Capitol Hill are always the most libertarian of the Republicans, whether they're Thomas Massey or Rand Paul or Mike Lee or others. And that's no different when it comes to the Supreme Court. The most libertarian of the jurists, Neil Gorsuch, had an interesting comment in regards to the obstruction of governmental business when he asked a question that I think any of us would ponder. He said, would this have applied to Representative Jamal Bowman, the Democrat who pulled a fire alarm before a very important House vote and then impeded a congressional proceeding? Could he have been charged under the same statute? Apparently, the government responded with no, but it does put them in a difficult position if they want to charge these January 6ers with impeding government. They've got to go after Jamal Bowman in a sense, right? He is absolutely brilliant, isn't Neil Gorsuch?
Well, I'm a big fan of Justice Gorsuch's, and yes, he is the most libertarian member of the court, also the one who most embraces the concept of natural law and natural rights. And the Jamal Bowman case is a classic example of selective prosecution. So that was a superb question to put to them. The government really is in a box. Originally, the government had charged Bowman with obstruction of justice. That is a classic case of obstruction of justice, pulling a fire alarm so that members of Congress have to leave the building. Classic from the government's perspective. It's actually a good thing, of course, when Congress can't meet, because then they can't take more of our money or more of our liberty.
I'm with you, Judge, and we certainly love to hear it. This is why we invite you on every Wednesday at 8 a.m. Central Judge, you've got your great show, Judging Freedom. Some of our listeners were actually asking the question, and I don't know the answer to it, just kind of a technical matter here. Is your show on Rumble?
You know, I don't know the answer to that. I don't believe that it is. It is on YouTube and Facebook. YouTube is where about 98 or 99% of my 10 million monthly viewers watch the show. Eventually, I'll probably have to go to Rumble because I keep getting in trouble with YouTube. You know, they have an algorithm that if the computer doesn't like what you say, they whack you.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you this, Judge. This is your audience over at rumble.com. So if you're not already streaming over at rumble.com, highly recommend that you do so. I think the people who are watching right now would love to watch your show over there, and certainly you get a lot more support and more free speech over there. So definitely we'll talk about that perhaps after the show if you need some help. But I also love your website, judgenap.com. I love reading your weekly column. I feel very blessed that I get to read it before everybody else does when it comes out regularly on Thursdays. This week's column, you're talking about the government essentially abolishing the right to freedom of assembly. Can you please share this with us?
So a young man held a rally in front of a police station in Baton Rouge, Louisiana in 2016, at which he harangued the crowd about police using excessive force. Someone in the crowd, unknown and unseen, threw a rock, and the rock hit a police officer who was standing nearby, making sure that the crowd was peaceful, and the crowd was peaceful. The police officer sued the young man that was speaking, and the trial court threw it out, saying, A, he's got freedom of speech, B, he didn't throw the rock, you admitted he didn't throw the rock, C, he didn't even have used speech that commanded, there's the police, let's throw rocks at them. The Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, which is the intermediate federal appellate court for Louisiana, Mississippi, and Texas, allowed the case to proceed. And last week, the Supreme Court refused to intervene, and it infuriated me. And that's why I wrote this piece. This is an assault on the freedom of assembly. If two people in the crowd or one person in the crowd, unseen and unnamed and unknown, can do something unlawful and the speaker can be liable, this will have a tremendous chilling effect on your right to speak to the public. In cases almost directly on point, the Supreme Court has said the First Amendment is so integral to our democracy, so integral to our humanity, that it will tolerate even violence when people react to it. If this guy is fined, then we are back to the days of the heckler's veto, where by heckling or disturbing the crowd, you can silence the speaker. In a very famous case in Chicago, where a Catholic priest harangued a crowd about Harry Truman, and the crowd stormed the podium and trashed the place, and the police, of course, typical, didn't arrest any of the people in the crowd. They arrested the priest. He was convicted in the Illinois system, and the Supreme Court threw out the conviction and basically said what I told you. If there is time for more speech to neutralize he's not liable for what the people do. I mean, this is like going to a Super Bowl and between the Giants and the Patriots, and two drunks have a fight in the stadium. Is one of them going to sue Tom Brady of the Patriots? This is just absurd that the Supreme Court is allowing this case to go forward. We'll see what happens. It may end up back before the court again, depending upon what the jury does. But this young man that put the rally together should not have to go through the terror and expense of having to defend himself for exercising his free speech rights in front of a police station.
Thank you for writing about this and calling that to attention. People will be able to read your column at judgenap.com tomorrow. Every Thursday, that column comes out. It's a great website, so make sure you check it out, where you can find all of his social media and his show, Judging Freedom. Hey, Judge, who do you have coming up on that tremendously popular show of yours?
Tomorrow at 8:45 in the morning, Senator Rand Paul, and he and I are going to talk about a two-sentence phrase inserted secretly in the new FISA law that allows the federal government to commandeer your cable your cable television carrier and allows them to attach their spy apparatus to your cable television. Wasn't even mentioned on the floor. It wasn't even in the statute when it was voted on the floor. It was added afterwards by two monsters, a guy named Mike Turner, a lying son of a bitch, if ever there was one in the history of the Congress, a miserable, despicable human being who doesn't even believe in the Fourth Amendment, who happens to be the chair, the Republican chair of the House Intel Committee, and his lackey Democratic colleague, Jim Hines from Connecticut, are the ones who are responsible for this.
Calling out the lying sons of bitches. That's Judge Andrew Napolitano. Let's give it up. Judge, thank you for your time today, your friendship, and as always, the fight for liberty continues underneath your eyes. We appreciate you very much, sir.
All the best, my man. Thank you for having me on the show.
Thank you very much. We appreciate Judge Napolitano. Give him some applause or click like over on the stream. We'd be glad to have you support the show if you click like and follow as well. I'm seeing we've got about a half dozen new people who have clicked follow over at rumble.com, about 900 or so people watching us live. We're glad to have you here. 927 over at rumble.com. Thank you. Appreciate that. All right, a little bit less heavy topics, a little bit more fun and funny topics. I'm really excited to introduce my next guest. Aaron Clary is going to be joining us live in about 5 minutes. He's coming to us from South Dakota, where it's like 2 hours earlier than it is right now. So I'm grateful that he got up early to join us to talk about his video, which inspired my discussion yesterday about why we can't enjoy beautiful women anymore in Western society. Why is it that everything has to be ugly? Why is it whenever they take a woman and they put her in a video game, they have to make it a female that is ugly and gay? Can we not just enjoy beautiful women anymore? Aaron Clary did a really great podcast and a discussion about this. He's an economist. He's an asshole. His business is called Asshole Consulting, so I'm not just calling him that. He calls himself that. And he's got some really great insights. And I watch his videos a lot, and I'm excited to get his take on things. Here's what I'm going to do for you. I'm going to ask you to visit apforlibertyshop.com, maybe do a little shopping while the mini documentary plays. You guys get to skip the commercials, you lucky sons of bitches. Son of a bitch. As the judge said. So visit apforlibertyshop.com. Enjoy the commercials. We'll be right back with Aaron Clary to talk about why we can't enjoy pretty women anymore on the Wake Up America show at wakeupamericashow.com.
Hey, you patriots in the mix, jump on a P4 Liberty Shop quick. Get your founding flavors brew, coffee with a rebel hue. Keychains jingle, freedom's call. Shop for liberty, stand tall. For the bold, the brave, the free. A P4 Liberty Shop's where you want to be. So laugh, sip, wear your pride. With every purchase, feel inside that spark of fun, cool and edgy dreams. We're the Patriot shopping regime.
Wake Up America show's bonus content. Today we look at the history of the Know Nothing Party in order to understand better how populist movements have shaped American politics. Consider this piece about the nativist riots and the Know Nothing Party from the Bill of Rights Institute. In the early 1850s, the United States experienced a wave of xenophobia, tracing its roots back to the Alien and Sedition Acts of 1798. The Alien and Sedition Acts of 1798 had been signed into law by President John Adams, largely due to Federalist concerns that immigrants from revolutionary France and Ireland might support Jeffersonian Republicans. Catholic immigrants in particular, especially in the Northeast, faced discrimination by Protestants who feared the Pope secretly encouraged immigration to subvert U.S. law. Only in 1821 did the state of New York accord full citizenship rights to Catholics. In 1834, a Protestant mob in Charlestown, Massachusetts, burned down a Catholic convent over rumors that nuns were being abused within its confines. Philadelphia's Church of St. Augustine was destroyed in the 1844 nativist riot, highlighting the violent manifestations of nativism. Immigration during the antebellum years surged as never before. Between 1840 and 1860, more than 4.3 million newcomers, predominantly Germans and Irish, resettled in the United States. In all, foreign-born residents in the United States amounted to a staggering 14.5% of the total population, a percentage that has never since been eclipsed. the Irish faced devastating famine, leading to massive emigration. Germans also emigrated due to economic hardships, but they generally arrived in better conditions than the Irish. Nativists felt threatened by the political savvy and increasing numbers of Irish and German immigrants, many of whom were Catholics and politically engaged. German immigrants tended to be better off than their Irish counterparts. The Irish, on the other hand, arrived poor and with few skills. Irish immigrants were particularly adept at navigating American politics, drawing from their experiences with electoral movements in Ireland. Yet even the humblest of Irish immigrants brought one indispensable skill to the United States with them: politics. Between the 1820s and 1840s, ordinary Catholic men in Ireland, approximately 80% of the island's population, engaged in popular electoral movements that prepared them for American politics. They had fought for and won civil rights for Catholics in Ireland. Although their efforts to repeal the act that placed them under British rule had failed, they had peacefully mobilized to fight it. In the United States, particularly in northern states, they organized voters and won local elections. The Order of United Americans, founded in 1844, marked the beginning of organized nativist movements, eventually transforming into the Know Nothing Party by 1853. By 1846, the OUA claimed 2,000 members. 5 years later, that number had mushroomed to 30,000 statewide. The founder of the movement stated, "What is equality but stagnation? If democracy implies universal suffrage, or the right of all men to take control of the state, without regard to the intelligence, the morals, or the principles of the man, I am no Democrat." As nativists saw things, immigrants and Catholics lacked such virtues. The Know Nothings gained significant traction in 1854, appealing to younger, wealthier members of society who blamed immigrants for societal ills. Most blamed immigrant Catholics for increasing social ills: poverty, alcohol abuse, and moral decline. Nearly all believed that immigrants, whom the founder of the movement described as that class of aliens who assumed to be lawgivers and rulers in America, were becoming too powerful. Violence between Catholic Irish immigrants and Protestant nativists often erupted, fueled by fears of Catholic influence on public education. Nativist candidates won key state and federal races in New York, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Indiana, and throughout New England. The Know Nothings, one person from Indiana reported, are as thick as locusts in Egypt. By the year's end, the mysterious political association boasted more than 10,000 lodges and 1 million members. The Know Nothings capitalized on the divisive issue of slavery, positioning themselves as an alternative to the Whig and Democratic parties amid the controversy of the Kansas-Nebraska Act. Despite initial success, the Know Nothing Party's focus on nativism, combined with the resolution of the potato blight and a decline in Irish immigration, led to its downfall by 1859. Abraham Lincoln critiqued the Know Nothing Party's exclusionary stance, emphasizing the contradiction it posed to the principle that all men are created equal. Ultimately, the slave question, nativist riots, and declining immigration ended its spectacular rise. Nativism saw a temporary decline during the Civil War as Irish and German regiments earned respect for their service, but it would resurface later. The Know Nothing Party is primarily associated with promoting nativism, flourishing during periods of increased immigration, and often targeting Irish and German immigrants. From 1840 to 1860, immigration surged, mainly due to difficult economic conditions in Ireland and the German states, marking a significant period of cultural and political tension in America. Nativism continued to decline during the Civil War as Irish and German regiments won respect for their service in battle. Lincoln's sentiments of 1855 had prevailed. However, nativism was to rear its head again at the end of the 19th century.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. Glad to have you here. We appreciate that. Oh, I guess I can't say good morning anymore because as we learned earlier from that lecture from that, obviously a PhD student, she says, good morning is racist. So no more good morning, guys. That's done. We should listen to what the black woman says, especially when she can't even speak regular English grammar. Yes, that's a good idea. So don't say good morning anymore. No, just kidding. Good morning, fellow racists. It's the Wake Up America show, and we're broadcasting live from Jefferson City, Missouri. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. Glad to have you here. Hope you appreciated that little mini documentary. You all unlocked that bonus content. Give yourselves a pat on the back. You hit the boo button instead of the applause button. Oops. No, we don't really have a studio audience. All right. Well, a lot of times when I'm driving into work in the morning, I'm listening into content, trying to get some ideas, and I listen to about 4 or 5 different podcasts. And one of them is hosted by a gentleman by the name of Aaron Clary, and he's got a company called Asshole Consulting. So you can imagine he's one of those most interesting men in the world types. Definitely a funny show that you want to watch as often as you can. I highly recommend him. He's joining us live right now for the very first time on the Wake Up America show to talk about why we can't have or enjoy beautiful women in this country anymore. Aaron Clary, live from Las Vegas. How you doing, brother?
Good morning, Austin. Thanks for having me.
Aaron, appreciate you very much. You're definitely a big inspiration to myself for this show. I get a lot of good ideas from your content. I don't steal it. I just borrow it. Great, good ideas we borrow, great ideas we steal. I play video games, and when we were in the 90s, I used to play like Diablo, and they would have characters like the succubus with giant boobies and hot women all over the place. Duke Nukem, right? Shake that ass,
Oh, yeah.
baby. All that stuff. It was great. It was ideal to be a young man in the 90s to play video games. Now I turn it on, and it's kind of like, it's like they're trying to turn me off. They're trying to make me dislike the female characters that they're creating. Why can't we enjoy beautiful women anymore in this country, Aaron?
Well, 2 main reasons. One, I think the majority of the female population today, especially as you get younger, they are highly offended that men of male nature, that our primary interest in women is sexual and how they look, and that's objectification. And generations before, oh, don't you objectify us? Don't you? They are offended and insulted at a visceral level on that for reasons I don't fully understand. And consequently, because that's an increasing percent of the population, it starts to permeate into different institutions and the culture. So as you pointed out, what led me to kind of dive into this is how you just can't have pretty girls in video games anymore, where they seem to be doing it on purpose, and they are doing it on purpose. They're absolutely punishing you, but that's because a significant percent of the creatives, the video game developers, not to mention middle management and owners of these different studios, have that viewpoint, that kind of cultural, political viewpoint that women just they can't be pretty. And how dare you, men? I wish I was being edgy and facetious. I think I'm being 100% dead on. They find it despicable that you like pretty women. And these people, depending on the institution they're in, can make it that pretty women don't really make it to the forefront or in our media. So the main institutions these is where you'd normally see pretty girls: media, entertainment. So we can't have the Swedish bikini team, which is probably before your time. We can't have pinup girls. Cindy Crawford absolutely could not sell anywhere near the Pepsi she used to back in the late 80s. I'm sorry you guys missed it. And then now video games as well. You're not allowed to have girls with huge boobs and a scantily clad outfit.
Aaron, it seems as if the social justice warriors, DEI fanatics, leftists, communists, it appears as if they want to sexualize everything but beautiful women. They sexualize children at drag shows and at pride events. They sexualize men in dresses who say that they're women. They'll sexualize bull dyke lesbians, but they will not sexualize a beautiful woman. Why?
Because that's heteronormative. It's not edgy. My personal theory, what you just listed, is people who are not straight, and I wouldn't even say not straight. I would say they're straight and faking not straight, because that's their political identity. That's their only identity. So it's the latest, edgiest. Go back 4 or 5 years ago. What was the latest Pokemon card of gender you could create and come up with? So that's what zany hair color. I wouldn't say that those are your main culprits or reasons we don't hire pretty women. I think it's just your rank and file average gal in the United States today that's been, your feminist light types who, oh, how the male gaze, and oh, it's shameful, and you're shallow if you only like men. Now, it's not to say that the LGBTQ community, their activist wing, their activist component, aren't trying to do that. I also think you mentioned it, it's leftists. They're by nature jealous, petty, and vindictive. And there is a punishment aspect to it too. They do not want straight men enjoying video games. But primarily, I would say that it has now become almost a Victorian pearl clutching kind of thing. Oh my gosh, a scantily clad girl, heaven forbid. And I think that is the main reason that you're not seeing pretty girls in popular culture today.
Aaron, you're an economist, you're an author, you're certified asshole, self-proclaimed.
Certified, yes, certified, yeah.
Certified asshole, self-proclaimed. So you'll have these kinds of conversations, which we appreciate on this show. I want to ask you a little bit about your research on dating websites. Your most recent video, you were talking a little bit about that site called Bumble, where a woman is supposed to make the first move. And now Bumble appears to want to be changing that formula that made them unique. You made this claim that dating sites are never going to be able to be profitable. My guess is because if you look at the data and the numbers of how women swipe versus men swipe, it would appear as if most women don't like most men. If I'm to be overgeneralizing, it appears that most women actually actively despise us men, and the dating app data appears to show that. Is that a fair assumption to make or not?
That's a very fair assumption. I mean, obviously not all women hate men. That there's a range or a spectrum, but based online dating, especially the data that has come from it, has allowed people like me, economists, researchers, statisticians, to go and look and say, okay, what is female behavior? And if you remove, it's very hard for men to remove their sexual and romantic and emotional interest in women. But if you just look at the numbers, it's pretty plainly clear that women, better said, have a minor and very fractional interest in men that men do women. Women are just not that interested in men. And you can see that in dating apps where the whole business model of a dating app is, and I'm just calling it how it is, women are the product. Dates with women are the product. And the client, the customer, is men. Men are the ones who pay. Women are the ones that are ultimately the product. And you cannot have dating apps if there is no dating. And as you mentioned before, the number of dates that actually come from these dating apps is very few, and usually concentrated on what looks to be the top 5% of men on dating apps. So that's the primary reason these dating apps are failing. But in seeing these dating apps now for about 10 to 15 years, we're starting to get data that you could call it shocking or sad or tragic, but it is what it is. Women really just don't like men that much.
I think most women don't like most men. Most men are interested in most women, but the reverse is not also true. So we see this playing out in the data from dating apps. I bring this up in conversation. My good friends, like the Council of AP for Liberty, got together this last weekend in DC, and we're all chatting about relationships. And I introduced this idea. I think I basically said that, looks are actually more important for women than they are for men, simply because, and everybody said, no. And I think it's because they're kind of relying on old, outdated thinking from like 70s, 80s, or 90s before the internet existed. Because if you're not a good looking 8, 9, 10 kind of a male, you're just going to get swiped left on anymore. So looks have suddenly become extremely important for men, which is why I think we see in society more and more men are being much more fastidious. They're taking care of themselves much more. They're shaving more, right? But present company excluded, perhaps. But I mean, in order to be competitive as a man, women are sort of conditioning us to take on more feminist or female qualities as a man. And that's why you see these kind of like chiseled abs versus the old kind of like hairy dudes like our dads that used to get laid in the 1980s, drinking a beer and having a beer gut. It used to be no problem. Competition amongst men, it's now like if you're not in like the top, not even 10%, it's now like 5% of men.
It's even, yes, below 5 even.
Yeah, talk to us on that.
Well, I don't know if it's men are I'd say the male market is becoming more bifurcated. You either got it or you don't. And so if you look at data, I like to use obesity or overweight as a measure, because if you're overweight, you are not in the dating market, male or female. And it shows whether or not you're going to put the effort into meeting the requirements of the opposite sex. And right now, 70% of young people, roughly 18 to 35, are overweight. So for men, it's a choice. You can either go ahead and meet the requirements of women or not. And it's looking like an increasing percentage of men are not. They're choosing video games. They're not going to the gym. They're getting overweight, whatever, Adderall, pot. They're not going to living at home, all those kind of choices. And then there are the men who are choosing so. But because online dating and social media, this has warped women's expectations of men because they have an unlimited menu, digitally speaking. And so now, yes, looks become more important, critically so, because that's the first thing they assess about you. But then all these other ancillary requirements, height, what's your status mainly in terms of job, educational requirements. It's like applying for a job during a recession. And so you will see it on the internet, these men who really become into that top 4%, because that's, your eyes are going to gravitate to that. But for every one of those, is an increasing number of men who are just throwing in the towel and saying, forget it, this is not worth it. Or I don't make 200,000. I'm not 6 foot and I got to put food on the table. So a lot of men are instead focusing on basics, Maslow's hierarchy of needs: food, clothing, shelter, their career, and then maybe sometime down the road pursue women. But especially now that the internet makes women's demands and interests very clear and well known, albeit skewed for some maybe theatrical effect, that's kind of diverging the men into a minor camp of, okay, I'll put in the effort to meet these increasing expectations of women, to an increasing percentage of the population, men are like, yeah, I can't get married. I have other things to do.
I say things like this to my friends and they all look at me like I have 3 heads. And you come on here and you say him and everybody's like, oh, he's so brilliant. He's an economist. He's so smart.
I wish they said, where are those people? I'd love to go meet those people. No, what it is, it's hard for men like women. They don't want to believe this. And I understand. I'm an economist. I don't have a soul. I can look at numbers and just tell it like it is. And that's predominantly why the past 3 books I've written, or 2 anyway, are very math intensive in statistics. Because back in the days when I had to argue politics or whether there was a housing bubble, I didn't want to argue with people on how they felt. I'm like, here's your data, here's your numbers, take it or leave it. And most people left it because humans are emotional creatures. And it's the same thing you're running into there. If you got one of my books and you showed them the data, it would maybe force them to be a bit more empirical. But yeah, men, and I'm not even begrudging these guys. They're humans. They don't want to believe it, but y'all better start believing it because it's real, at least based on the numbers I got.
Yeah, one of the more controversial takes that I've had lately that gets me lots of boos amongst my friends and friend group, and whenever I say this amongst people that, in polite conversation, we talk about gender issues, is that we essentially have de facto polygamy here in the American society. And women don't like it when I say this, so you got to be careful what you say around them, because they'll immediately start the shame tactics, right? Shame.
Not the shame tactic.
When you say, yes, you're an incel, right? When you say things like this, but we essentially have polygamy. Women would rather share an alpha male than be monogamous with a beta, right? So women would rather have knowing that there's a harem, they would rather have that 8, 9, 10 male, the Christian Grey, if you will, than to settle for an average man and be monogamous with him. Is that a controversial take from your data? I mean,
no, that is the data. That is a fact. I honestly learned long ago to stop listening to what women say or care or feel. I don't have time for that shit. I don't have time to listen to economists or politicians lie to me about what's happening in the economy. That is exactly what is happening. What would help, not just you and your conversations with your friends, but anyone listening, is, regardless, male, female, doesn't matter. Stop listening to what people say and look at what they do. And with the advent of the internet, we have a tremendous amount of data that shows what people are doing. girls will complain until the day we all die and the sun goes super giant and consumes the earth. What is their behavior? The behavior is they are time sharing top tier men. They are making accommodations for men. They will not always, but they won't like it, but they will accept and try to outcompete the other women that a man is sleeping with. Yes, there's still people who get in monogamous relationships, but that is the current day economy we have now. It's kind of like an oligopoly. You have a top few companies that can, have the majority of the dating market, and the women, they might complain, but at the end of their day, they're still going out with these guys. And so that is a reality, that is a fact, and I would not obfuscate the analysis listening to what people think about it.
Good stuff. Good morning for all those who are tuning in live right now to the Wake Up America show. Between all the platforms, looks like we've got around 1,500 people or so watching us live. Welcome. I imagine that for many of you who are tuning in, this might be the very first time that you're watching the show. So please do click like and follow us on whichever platform that you're watching us on so that you can come back and join us. This show is live every Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. And we have great conversations with great guests like Aaron Clary, who's joining me live right now. I watch his YouTube videos quite frequently. Highly recommend them. He's an author and a consultant, as well as an economist, talking a little bit about the dating game and the war of the sexes. Getting towards the end of this conversation, I was curious your thoughts. We were talking about Pearl Davis, who's quite controversial these days, quite popular. She's in a battle with many of what we call tradcons. This is a term for people who are very, very online, Aaron, but essentially traditional conservatives, specifically women. So Pearl is kind of calling these traditional conservative women out, saying that they're LARPing. Essentially, that's live action role playing. Again, I'm using a lot of terminology, big words here, but follow along for those who are listening. So she's calling out this, Allie Beth Stuckey over at The Blaze, right? Very strong conservative Christian woman, hosts a show, saying that whenever that they may be anti-feminists in their content, right? They talk about the perils of left feminism. But essentially what Pearl is attacking them on is the Steven Crowder thing, suggesting that there is no such thing as a conservative woman when it comes to divorce court, for example, right? Just like there are no feminists in house fires. A lot of these traditional conservative women do appear to be play acting anti-feminist, but when the day comes that they might get true equality or actually be treated like a woman instead of being gifted with the privileges of being a man, they all out themselves for being the true postmodern feminists that they are. Have you been following this conflict, and what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, a little bit from maybe a slightly different angle. I can't really find much fault with whatever Daily Wire, the Tradcons, Dennis Prager, and all these people, because I agree with them with 99% of the political stuff that they say. The main issue that me and other people like Pearl or people in the red pill community would have with them is they got a big gaping flaw flank where they're like, oh, well, let's just all get married and have children, which sure, that sounds great on paper. But the risks of divorce, as evidenced by Crowder and Prager's on his third wife, a lot of guys like, whoa, hang on. And it'd be one thing if the cost of divorce was, well, it's $20 and, you had your hand at blackjack and you lost your $20. You were losing your life. You're losing a lot of times your children. And so because there's such huge and tremendous risks, we come from it from a more secular and risk actuary type of thing. Like, whoa, wait a minute. But it'd be blunt, as Pro would recommend or say, marriage is obsolete. It's a non-starter now for most men. And so I think a lot of those people, I don't think they're LARPing in some regards, and that they're mostly predominantly Christian, and they are being intellectually honest and following the religion. Like, yes, you should get married, families, and all that.
Can I interrupt you for just a moment, Aaron?
Sure.
Because I'd like to introduce another concept here. When you say, we agree with them on 99% of things, I agree with you as well. But on this issue, when we're talking about marriage and dating, these are people who get married at like 19 and 20 years old. These are people who maybe they've been out of the dating game for like 10 or 15 years. The dynamics have completely changed here. So they're a bit oblivious when they're giving people, dating advice about what to deal with in this modern context. And it just seems like people like Michael Knowles and others, again, respect their political views, but they're like, oh, well, just go get married. Just jump in the Shark Tank, right? Just go ahead and go through it, right? But they're oblivious to the actual challenges that people who are unmarried, who are trying to have a relationship, actually have to go through, right?
Well, and Dave Ramsey, I use as an example. I think I'm speculating, but it sounds like he's got a great wife. He's been married forever. And yeah, to these people, you got family, you got kids, you got a wife, you got a spouse that you love. Yeah, they don't say, well, what's the problem? It's like, okay, not everyone came out with the Leave It to Beaver family, you know. It's their experience is colored, and you are right. A lot of these people did get married early on, and so they lack they have the horse blinders on that they can't see existential risks to marriages general. But I still don't find necessarily malice. Some people I do think they're being intellectually dishonest, and there's a bit of theater and LARPing going on. I think Matt Walsh in particular, not to pick on him, but someone paid me to do a review. I don't think he's being intellectually honest. I think he's fully aware some of this is to get clicks. I would say Michael Knowles actually is intellectually dishonest. I think he also does it for clicks and traffic. But aside from those two, unless I've reviewed other people, I think most people are coming from a religious angle. And yes, a lot of them did get married. And yes, a lot of them are naive to the secular or real world about marriage. And I'm glad we can have this conversation. But at the end of the day, I don't care, because I grew up in the church. My dad was a pastor. Dude, everyone was getting divorced left and right. Frankly, God is not going to save you. And I don't care how Christian your wife is. She will get divorced. Not a guarantee, but at no rates any less than the secular kind of world. So that's the point of contention that we have with the tradcons, as it were, and whether they're LARPing or whether they sincerely are a true believer. At the end of the day, it's moot. Especially young men need to be warned about the risks of marriage.
God may forgive you, but your wife won't. Aaron Clary, is there anything else that you'd like to share with our listeners before we let you go today, sir?
If you really want to see it, I'm not just blowing smoke, I would recommend people get my book, The Book of Numbers, Analyzing the ROI in the Pursuit of Women. There I measure and present the numbers and statistics that reflect women's interest in men and other such things that would make the case here numerically on what I'm trying to do. And then otherwise, yeah, if you just want to find my main website, you can go to assholeconsulting.com if you had questions about literally anything. Which you can also, the companion site is my YouTube channel to Asshole Consulting. Just search Aaron Clary. You'll find me there.
Aaron, you're doing good work, sir. I'll have to check out those books. I definitely enjoy your content. I'll keep watching it. This was a great conversation. I hope you'll come back and join us again sometime. Thanks for getting up so early and being so generous with your time, sir. We appreciate you.
Thanks, Austin. I appreciate it.
Yeah, have a good one. What do you guys think of Aaron Clary? Should we give him a round of applause? Shall we? I think we should. Join the Wake Up America show live every Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. If you want to help support the show and get more content like this, do us a favor. Like and follow the feed. And as we like to say at the end of the show, whenever we're on our way out the door, we say, what do? You exit through the grift shop. Yes, the grift shop. Well, AP, what's the grift shop? It's ap4libertyshop.com. That's AP, the number 4, ap4libertyshop.com. We've got a beautiful new collection of items in the merch shop this month. The stained glass collection. This George Washington cutting board is already starting to drop in people's mailboxes. They've been getting their cutting boards, sending me pictures, and they love them. People are saying, wow, this is absolutely beautiful. I definitely want to have this in my home. Designed by my lovely wife, Stephanie Peterson, and exclusively available at ap4libertyshop.com. I'm going to be real with you. I went to Monticello last week in D.C., and Thomas Jefferson's merchandise shop sucked. It was terrible. Bunch of boring crap, no revolutionary spirits. Like your woke Democrat aunt put it in there. They had like these little dolls that had nothing to do with Thomas Jefferson. Bunch of books about slavery, and then some really terrible magnets and things. Nothing with like Thomas Jefferson's quotes on them, any of that good stuff, none of that. So if you want to get real awesome Founding Fathers merchandise, you're going to have to skip the Monticello tour, say goodbye to Mount Vernon, go to ap4libertyshop.com. That's AP, the number 4, ap4libertyshop.com. Are we going to see you here tomorrow? See you here tomorrow? Okay, great. See you right back here tomorrow on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. Have a good one, guys. Take care.
Hey, you patriots in the mix, jump on a P4 Liberty Shop quick. Get your founding flavors brew, coffee with a rebel hue. Keychains jingle, freedom's call. Shop for liberty, stand tall. For the bold, the brave, the free. A P4 Liberty Shop's where you want to be. So laugh, sip, wear your pride. With every purchase, feel inside that spark of fun, cool and edgy dreams. We're the Patriots shopping regime. Patriots in the mix, jump on a P4 Liberty Shop quick. Get your founding flavors brew, coffee with a rebel hue. Keychains jingle, freedom's call. Shop for liberty, stand tall. For the bold, the brave, the free. A P4 Liberty Shop's where you want to be. So laugh, sip, wear your pride. With every purchase, feel inside that spark of fun, cool and edgy dreams. We're the Patriots shopping regime. Patriots in the mix, jump on a P4 Liberty Shop quick. Get your founding flavors brew, coffee with a rebel hue. Keychains jingle, freedom's call. Shop for liberty, stand tall. For the bold, the brave, the free. A P4 Liberty Shop's where you want to be. So laugh, sip, wear your pride. With every purchase, feel inside that spark of fun, cool and edgy dreams. We're the Patriots shopping regime.